Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I'll bring to you something for your consideration. We have been following in the footsteps of John Lennon for far too long. I I joke. I do you. But honestly though, we have been really following the Lennon footprint for how to run the Carnifexes and Old One Eye for this entire edition. And a lot of things have changed within the edition, to which I think it's time that we maybe take a second look and see if that's still the best thing. Now, if you know Carnifexes and Old One Eye from what we've done this edition, we have seen Death Spitters out the wazoo, Bioplasm, Spine Banks, and your chitinous claws and teeth attached to Old One Eye. All fine and dandy. And this also, I don't know when I'm putting this out, but looking at the WCW list for the Tyranid players, there's like four Old One Eyes, and only two of them are bringing the Carnifexes along with them. And on top of that, they're all still in Invasion Fleet, if I remember correctly. Um, so let's, instead of thinking about if it's time to just straight up drop them, wonder if they still deserve to be an invasion fleet, first and foremost. I will say on my Norn video, I did come to realize that the Norn assimilator is two Carnifexes in a trench coat. And that's okay if you know what you're doing with your models, right? There's some situations in which I would probably want the Carnifex brick, and there's other situations in which I want the Norn assimilator. I know I did say that. That might be a tough one to grasp for some people. Now, at the start of the edition, our exocrine was strength 8. For T9 and above, we were praying that we were getting some lethal hits and some sustained with our Maliceptor. Tyrannifex wasn't tank buster consistently, and our Zoanthropes didn't attach to the Neurotyrant yet, so we were hoping for threes with last cannon shots on tank busting, right? But then beyond that, you had Carnifexes attaching to Old One Eye. Now, the Carnifexes are move 8, T9, 2 up save, 8 wounds a pop. The Death Spitters, I'm just going to go to those as to what we're familiar with. 24 inches, 6 attacks per Death Spitter. Well, Death Spitters, I guess. Hitting on 4s, Strength 7, AP 2, Damage 1. Bioplasm, I guess I could talk about that too. Assault Blast, 12 inches, D3. Hitting on 4s, 7, 2, 1. And Spine Banks. Strength 6, excuse me, Range 6, 5 attacks hitting on 4s, Strength 5, AP 0, Damage 1. Not impressive, right? This comes at the time of which you need to reserve your shots from the Exocrine to give your Maliceptor rerolls into something else. So if you have 24 shots with Strength 7, AP 2, Damage 1, you can get through the other shit in the way. Um, Now, it should be noted that this still hits on 4s, and it's only damage 1, so it's not necessarily impressive. Again, you are just trying to get other things out of your way, more so than actually do the damage. And it was better, to definitely have that range profile when there was no way for you to really pump up your melee to what a Carnifex should feel like. Now, we should talk about the melee in tandem with Blistering Assault. Each time an enemy unit is selected to shoot, after that unit has shot, if any models from this unit lost one or more wounds as a result of those attacks, this unit can make a Blistering Assault move. If it does, roll 1d6, adding 2 to the result. Each model in this unit can be moved a distance in inches up to the result, but this unit must finish that move as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. When doing so, those models can be moved within engagement range of that enemy unit. Each unit can only make one Blistering Assault move per phase. Now, We go over to the melee weapons. Carnifex Crushing Claws. 4 attacks hitting on 4s, strength 12, AP 3, d6 plus 1 damage. Carnifex Extra Scything Talons, 2 attacks hitting on 4s, strength 9, AP 2, damage 3. The Scything Talons, 6 attacks hitting on 4s, strength 9, AP 2, damage 3. And finally, the Chitinous Claws and Teeth, 4 attacks hitting on 4, strength 6, AP 0, damage 1. Now, most of that is okay, especially when I'm hitting on 4s. Now, the other change that has happened since we started running this block is that if there is some Synapse around, you get +1 to strength in melee if you are within Synapse range. And going back to who we had in these lists to make sure that I can give Synapse onto things so I get the good Feel No Pain and Invasion Fleet, the Neurotyrant. And I still feel that I pretty much only run the Carnifexes with Old One Eye if the Neurotyrant is in my list. And that's a lot of points, but we used to run Old One Eye and the Carnifexes with the Neurotyrant and the Zoanthropes. So now that literally the Zoanthropes can attach to the Neurotyrant, it's not like anything changed. In fact, the Zoes got cheaper, and so did the Carniflex Brock. The Carniflex block. Excuse me. Um, both of them got cheaper, so you have more points to utilize than you did when we were running this. Um, Now, mind you, this is assuming you don't bring a Tyrannifex, but you can because we have dropped the Maliceptors. Literally, if you are still running double Maliceptor and you want to run this old loadout, drop one of the Maliceptors and the points that you had from the OG list, you can then just take that over to a Tyrannifex and you will be A-okay. Um, it's perfectly fine. So, going through all of that, why do I think we need to reevaluate? I think it's time to just let them be melee fexes. That's my take, right? If we let them be melee fexes, then all of a sudden, assuming we go for something like all scything talons, right? Now I have 8, 16 with 2 models, attacks hitting on 4s, strength 10, AP 2, damage 3. And what Tyranids do pretty well is damage 3. So, let's do some damage 3. And why else, right? Well, we're bringing Old One Eye, of course, and Old One Eye is the one that's going to actually punch anything that is higher than strength T9 or T10, especially if we are making sure we have that synapse range going. And we have other things to now follow up with them. The Neurolictor is more expensive, but the Neurolictor is synapse now, which it wasn't when we were doing this tactic. Um, and you also have the Brood Lord, who once again now is synapse that can run out with the Gene Stealers, uh, and give pretty much the close proximity you need to keep up with the Carnifexes, assaulting blisteringly, up the board to keep up with them and give that +1 to the strength. So now there's a lot more options. We're even seeing that the Winged Hive Tyrant got cheaper, and if you have a Winged Hive Tyrant, making it so that the thing that wants to be in melee gets in melee and they can't get punched as often, you do a lot of mean shenanigans. And Old One Eye still has the Feel No Pain on a 5 up, and still does what you want. Rerolls the hit rolls for them, and heals and the command phase. Uh, each command phase, right? T9 to save 9 wounds. Now, all of that is fine. Okay, this is still a decent package, and you would say that this is a staple in Invasion Fleet with that weapon profile. Now, I would say there's more things that you can just not worry about to have to waste. Now, I will say, I don't know how many people have magnetized their Carnifexes, but Carnifexes have been around a while. You can find some magnetized if you haven't already yourself, right? Um, to which I think the Death Spitters might not be as needed, especially when we look at other things on top of that, right? So we go to Invasion Fleet, and it I've been trying to drive home, okay? Invasion Fleet is a fighting detachment, right? It is fighting, fight phase, fight phase, fight phase, fight phase. Command phase, command phase. Like, this, it happens in your opponent's shooting phase. This is not meant for you to just be firing with exocrines. Now, giving the rerolls and whatnot, I'm not saying take exocrine out of your list because of this, but nothing changes by making the melee detachment melee harder, right? You still get all the things you had before, and, 5 would feel no pain on the brick of them. But also now Death Frenzy becomes a little bit more appealing, right? Instead of just making it so that every time a Carnifex goes down, you get 4 strength 6 attacks hitting on 4s. Now we have something like 16 attacks coming that way, or I guess for each one you have 8 attacks, 9-2-3, possibly 10-2-3, right? You have that option. Adrenal Surge, Fight Phase, crits on 5s. That is steep for 2 CP, but at the same time, now I'm willing to invest it if I'm going a Carnifex God, you see, can't do it. Carnifex block. I keep wanting to say Carniflex because, they're muscly, they're flexing. But I guess my mouth doesn't want to continue with the block part today. My bad. Uh, so yeah, Adrenal Surge, it is 2 CP, it's steep, but I have talked about being an asshole, how to make a list to be an asshole in Melee that involves the Swarm Lord and the Winged Hive Tyrant, so usually, again, not to advocate too hard for double Hive Tyrant, I usually am against it as well, but there's options, right? If we do pivot even further into something like that, and you go with the Swarm Lord Foot Hive Tyrant with a bunch of Tyrant Guard, and you make it so that sometimes they get the 5 up Feel No Pain, or they're fighting on death, um, this makes it a lot more useful. Can you have 2 Tyranid units within Synapse range if you did everything else right, right? So now, I'll let both my Hive Tyrant, my Swarm Lord, really, because the Hive Tyrant is probably chilling in the back. I'll let my Swarm Lord and Tyrant Guard get the crits on 5s, as well as my Carniflexes. Now, if I have the CP situation that I am going for on that one. But again, that's an extreme case. Um, Even have consolidation, normal move shenanigans. It's here. You're not getting anything out of these. Well, this one, but I guess you could argue if a chance arises, you get something out of predatory imperative as well. Maybe you need to make them precision at that time, and that's another thing. We usually clown on the precision bit. Usually, precision is not needed. You just go, well, I'll just kill them with sustained or lethals, and that's very true. I'm not going to say that that stops being true because pretty much every character falls into something here, but maybe you're at a mounted character unit. Who fucking knows, right? Um, so that's just to say it's time. We have things in Invasion Fleet to make it better for us to actually do these type of things. Now that we see other things are viable, such as Tyrant Guard blocks. Then going over to something like Crusher Stampede, something that made me think about this is the John Lennon list still best in Invasion Fleet? I don't have that answer in today's video. Still working out some kinks, but if you think about it, like, well, double Exocrine, double Malice up there. Zoe, Neurotyrant block, and or Tyrannifex. That's a lot of monsters, save for maybe my battle line and a lictor or two. I can benefit from Crusher Stampede, into which we come to another thing in that people didn't like running the Carniflex block in Crusher Stampede because you got nothing for a long time. Now you get something. Each time a Tyranids monster model from your army makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. If that model's unit is below its starting strength, add 1 to the wound roll if it's below half strength. In addition, while a Tyranids monster unit from your army, excluding battle-shocked units, is at its starting strength, add 2 to the objective control characteristic of models in that unit. So they made that change, and we all went, oh, that's not good. And then we realized, wait, that actually is pretty good and annoying, especially on somebody like Old One Eye. If you bring him solo, while he is at full health, he's 5 OC. When he goes down a hit or down a wound, he hits on twos, and there is a stratagem to re-roll your hits, so don't need the Carnifex, is too tough on that one. And if you are below half, you are also wounding on an additional +1, and you are Old One Eye who hits hard. So you go all to that and say, well, you're not making a strong case to bring the Carnifexes steel now, right? But now, until one of those Carnifexes go down, that is 15 OC. 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2 is 10. Plus 3 plus 2 is 15. That's 15 OC they have to address while still doing everything they don't want to have happen to them as this block, right? All the things that you don't want to happen to you versus this version and Invasion Fleet still happens now. Once one of the Carnifexes go down, sure, now we are back to 6 OC, but now my other Carnifex and Old One Eye are slapping you across the face on threes. Well, 3 and 2. This is now becomes hits on threes, and this now becomes twos because the unit is below its starting strength. Well, monster, I'll never get the +1 to wound from being under half strength. A lot of your units don't really get to benefit from that. If we're being honest, we kind of understand by now that if it's below half, it usually is dead. So there's that. But also, who cares? The bodyguard unit finally dies, and then you have Old One Eye by his lonesome. That now you get to go back to either having 5 OC, +1 to hit, and or +1 to wound, because he does have a 5 up feel no pain. So it is a little bit easier for that one to happen every now and again, and then you regen and they worry which one is going to pop off on them there. But it doesn't stop there, okay? The other thing with running possibly the Carnifex block, I guess you could do the regular list with the Death Spitters and ignores cover on those shots, but who gives a fuck about that? Especially once you finally lose a Carnifex, it goes down in effectiveness, right? But also, you can Massive Impact, you can Tank Shock, get that going. You can Savage Roar once you're in combat, so -1 to hit, and possibly -1 to wound against T9 monsters, and one of them having a 5 up Feel No Pain. And the biggest thing of all is that Untrammeled Ferocity made it so that your monster unit can go through walls with a normal advance or fallback move. So that means in your turn, spend 1 CP or don't with a Hive Tyrant and let the Carnifex block Old One Eye and friends go through a wall. Let them get shot a little bit, as you were doing anyway, because you want them to get up the board as fast as possible and start wreaking havoc as fast as possible. And if they shoot the block, they have to get through, what, 25 wounds at T9 to up save? Good luck, right? They have to get through all of that. And then if you... There's even more things right here, right? You're already putting something mean through a wall that previously was inconvenient. We found a way to do it in Invasion Fleet, but I think we could all agree that I'd much rather just move them through the fucking wall. And then, once you finally get to a position, you can trigger Corrosive Viscera once one of your Carnifexes go down for D1. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to take 1 mortal wound my damn self and only do 1 mortal wound to my enemy? Now, this goes to a positioning thing. If you can just do 1 mortal wound to all of your shit that aren't in a, bodyguard attached unit that's a monster, you now have given your own army +1 to hit without needing to pretty much put them in ass fuckistan to get this rule going, and you can start dropping people with that +1 hit already ready to go because it's only a D1 for 1 CP turning on the rest of your army. Yeah, that's pretty darn fine. So maybe we need to consider putting the whole block in Crusher Stampede. We already struggle with, oh, I don't have enough models for objective control shenanigans. Putting a unit with 15 OC is steep, right? Like that's something that has to be addressed. They have to fight, and they don't want to fight Old One Eye and friends off of a point. Assuming, let's say that you bring two Norn emissaries. I know wishful thinking, right? But two Norn emissaries, fuck it, you could do three for 1 point, one objective. There's a chance you have 30 OC on it with 4 models. That's funny. Now, the more realistic one, if you do bring more than one Norn emissary, it's you put them on the outside objectives, make it so that they, you have to dedicate some real shit to shooting them off on the sides, and the person in the middle, where things are usually a little bit more hectic, is Old One Eye and friends. And again, you need to come take the middle from them. And if you start trying to punch them, they will come punch you right through your deployment zone or whatever the fuck it is. So, Crusher Stampede, I think we need to be considering it again, especially. I know people want to keep going, but my Crusher Stampede, the stratagems are so bad. And that's just not true. That's just not true at all. I, yeah, it's just not true. For reference, right? People that say that will swear by Evasion Fleet, and they will only use the 5 Feel No Pain all game. So you tell me which detachment has the worst stretch when one detachment is played exclusively for the detachment rule in the 5 Feel No Pain, when the other one has access to help you do damage to your opponent and turn yourself on, put your shit that usually has an issue through walls, reroll hits, -1 to hit, -1 to wound, possibly tank shock that we normally don't have access to, and ignore cover backslash mods for your shooting. I think that's just very false thinking, and it does sometimes piss me off seeing that across my screen. But that's not what this video is. We're talking about Old One Eye and friends. And then finally, the other one that is probably most likely for consideration is Synaptic Nexus. Again, assuming you have ways to keep them within Synapse range, but you probably should, between Neurotyrants, Brood Lords, Neurolictors, Deep Striking, Winged Hive Tyrants, Parasite of Mortrix also can go into here with the Dirge Heart of Kharas. Like, there are ways to get this popping, right? To make sure that it's there. And if you were concerned about rolling 5-ups here, you can roll 5-ups here for a turn, or if you want, you feel like it's needed, switch the Synaptic Imperative, 5-up Invulnerable Save. 5-up Invulnerable Save that, this 5-up Feel No Pain does not apply to mortal wounds. So, it is better here because if you can stop an attack that has damage 3 from getting through because you rolled that 5, you don't have to worry about rolling 3 5-ups. You just have to worry about rolling 1, right? So there's that. And then, if you made the 5-up, you made the 5-up. If you let, it's better to let no damage through than letting 1 or 2 damage through, right? Can we agree on that? I know that first time it didn't maybe sound the best. +1 to advance and charge rolls for a turn. You have an assault weapon. Assault weapons. So if you want to advance that turn and then let yourself get shot so you can blistering assault, that works. Or if it's not that turn and you put yourself out there the first turn and let yourself get shot with a 5-up invulnerable, even better. Made some saves and they couldn't take you off before you get into their face, and then when it's your turn, you charge at +1. Or who you feel like you don't need that +1 to the charge, switch it if needed, +1 to hit. And guess what? Instead of needing to be down a Carnifex, now you have 2 Carnifexes hitting on 3s in melee. and Old One Eye hitting on 2s. Rerolling hits. If you're nearby a situation that required Synapse to be popped in the fight phase, and again, this could be in the shooting phase as well, it's better to reroll hits and wounds than just hits, as Old One Eye gives. But if you can reroll your entire hit roll and reroll wound rolls of a 1 because you're next to a situation, even better. You also then get access to giving a Tyranid unit from your army that is within Synapse range access to fall back, shoot, and charge. So maybe you got this little blast shenanigans. Maybe you're one of the radicals that have used a Strangle Thorn cannon or a Heavy Venom cannon on your Carnifexes, along with Bioplasma Blast. Dump back, fire, charge as the Carnifexes. So that's just to say that I think it's time we kind of reevaluate where we're going with it. They got cheaper, but we did the thing that I always find slightly weird is that things get better and then we stop using it. And I don't mean in the sense like, yeah, our Tyranifex got better, so we stopped using the Neurotyrant and the Zoanthropes. That makes sense. I mean, where it's just like, huh, this thing is objectively better in all conceivable manners, but we're using it less, i.e., just the Neurotyrant and the Zoanthropes. Where it's just like, what happened to all the Zoanthropes? Where'd we put those, right? Um, but like, I don't mean substituting for a Tyrannifex. I mean, we haven't even put that in. We're just no longer concerned with busting tanks in some of these invasion fleet lists. I guess I should clarify that's what I mean. So like shit like that. It's just interesting when we do that, and I don't want us to do that for some unit that still has potential. Not to the same effect. I do think well, I won't say that because it's somebody's list, but I'll save that for later, I guess. And now it's awkward that I'm leaving this in the video, but if you can piece things together, you can piece things together, and then I don't have to feel bad about accidentally revealing somebody's tech. But yeah, Old One Eye and friends, maybe it's time to go full melee and let them loose. Probably my bet is here, but I can see a damn good argument for here too. But yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.